The morning was quiet, filled with the soft blue of dawn. A thin layer of mist lay across the forest path, clinging to the grass and stones as though it were reluctant to leave. Each step made a muffled sound on the damp earth, and the air smelled of pine needles and fresh soil. Alexey walked slowly along the trail he knew so well from childhood. His breath rose in gentle clouds, dissolving in the cool stillness. Birds had not yet begun their morning songs, and only the far-off rustle of branches hinted that the forest was waking. He carried no hurry in his steps. Today, he had come to visit his grandmother, Sofia, who lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the forest. He had walked this road countless times, but each journey felt different, sometimes cheerful, sometimes heavy, depending on the weight in his heart. This morning, a quiet unease followed him. At last, the trees parted, revealing a clearing where the old house stood. Its wooden walls were darkened by time and weather, but the sight of smoke curling gently from the chimney gave him comfort. A warm yellow glow shone through the window, like a lighthouse calling him home. He climbed the short steps and opened the door. Inside, the smell of baked bread and herbal tea filled the air. His grandmother sat at the table near the window. Her silver hair was tied back in a simple braid, and her thin hands trembled slightly as she stirred her tea. When she saw him, her lips curved into a small, tender smile. "Alexey," she greeted softly, her voice warm but tired. "I've been waiting for you." He kissed her cheek and sat down beside her. For a moment, they sat in silence, listening to the quiet ticking of the old clock on the wall. Then she spoke again. "My dear, I want to ask you something. Lately, the house feels too big for me. My hands are weaker, my steps slower. I am afraid of being alone, afraid that one day I won't be able to care for myself." Her words were calm, but Alexey felt a weight press on his chest. He looked at her, the woman who had raised him after his parents were gone, who had been his anchor through storms of life. Now she was growing fragile, and the thought of leaving her alone filled him with pain. "I'll always be here for you, babushka," he said softly, holding her hand. "I'll help as much as I can. I promise you won't be alone." She squeezed his hand gently, but in her eyes he still saw a shadow of worry. That day, Alexey worked around the house. He chopped firewood, carried water, fixed a broken hinge on the gate. Sofia watched from the window, sometimes calling out small directions, sometimes simply smiling as she saw his strong figure move through the yard. By evening, they sat together near the old stove. The fire cracked quietly, sending a glow across the wooden walls. They spoke of memories, of Alexey's childhood, of Sofia's youth, of the forest that had always surrounded their lives. The world outside seemed far away. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Alexey rose early and went into the forest to gather branches for the fire. The air was cooler, and a faint fog still lingered between the trees. As he walked, he began to sense something unusual. The forest, usually so familiar, seemed different, as though it were watching him. The shadows stretched long across the path, and a strange stillness filled the air. Then he heard it, a voice, faint and soft, like a whisper carried by the wind. "Alexey." He froze. His heart beat faster, yet the voice was not frightening. It was gentle, almost sorrowful, calling his name with tenderness. He stepped carefully off the path, moving deeper between the trees. The whisper came again, leading him forward. His breath grew shallow as he followed the sound. At last, he reached a small clearing he had never noticed before. In its center stood a large moss-covered stone. The whisper faded into silence. The forest was utterly still. Alexey touched the rough surface of the stone, and in that moment, a vision appeared before him, faint, shimmering, like light reflected in water. It was the shape of a woman, dressed in a long flowing gown, her face blurred but her presence undeniable. She looked at him with quiet intensity, as if carrying a message he could not yet hear. Then, just as quickly as she appeared, the vision vanished. Alexey stood alone once more. His hands trembled. Had it been a dream? An illusion born of his tired mind? Or something more? He returned to the house in silence. When he told Sofia what he had seen, her eyes grew calm, almost knowing. "My dear," she said, "the forest holds memory. It speaks to those who listen. What you saw was not meant to frighten you, but to remind you, you are not alone. You are part of something larger, rooted here, like the trees. This land carries the voices of those before us. Sometimes, it lets us hear them." Her words filled him with a strange peace. Perhaps the figure had been a spirit, or perhaps a memory of his mother, gone too soon. Whatever it was, it left him with a sense of belonging he had not felt in years. The next day, he returned to the clearing. The forest no longer felt heavy. Sunlight streamed through the branches, and the air was alive with birdsong. On the stone where he had seen the vision, a single flower now grew, small, fragile, but bright. Alexey bent down and touched its petals. A warmth spread through him. It was as if the forest itself had answered, telling him that his place was here, that his care and love were not in vain. When he came back to the house, he hugged his grandmother tightly. She looked at him with quiet eyes and said, "I see it in you. The forest has accepted you. You've brought light back." From that day forward, something changed in Alexey. He no longer felt torn between leaving and staying. He understood that his roots were here, with Sofia, with the house, with the forest that held their memories. He began to care for the land with new devotion. He cleared the paths, planted young trees, and repaired the fences. Soon, neighbors and friends came to help, and together they created a small garden and a place for gatherings. Laughter and voices once again filled the old yard. One summer evening, Alexey and Sofia sat beneath the apple tree in the garden. The air was warm, the leaves whispering above them. The scent of blossoms floated through the dusk. "I used to think a house was only wood and stone," Alexey said, gazing at the glowing sky. "But now I know, a house is memory. It's the people we love, the roots we protect. That's what makes it alive." Sofia smiled, her eyes moist with quiet pride. "Yes, my dear. And the forest reminds us, wherever we go, we carry our home within us. But when we stay, we give it strength." They sat together in silence, listening to the breath of the forest, the gentle creak of branches, the distant call of an owl. The night was deep, yet it carried no fear. Only peace. And in that peace, Alexey felt whole, as though he had finally found his place. The forest, once a mystery, was now a friend. The house, once fragile, was alive again. His grandmother, once afraid, was now surrounded by care and warmth. The whisper of the forest had led him not into darkness, but into light. And so the story of that quiet day ended, not with a sudden change, but with a gentle certainty, like the closing of a book or the last note of a lullaby. Alexey knew, he was home.